I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Sensual Goat, Neil, Adam Price, and a whole bunch of people in the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server. So welcome one and all.
Morning.
Hello.
Good morning. We do have a video to cover today, but I want to wait till Brian's logic attends because it's, as it transpires, his suggestion that we cover it. So I saw it repeated from someone else in our internal server, what do you want to call it, Skype, basically. And somebody had repeated the message that Brian originally sent, and I'd suggested to Brian, you should really get in on this. And it was him that originally shared it. So Bob the Science Guy, as the title for the live stream indicates, is going to be the main subject matter. But, that being said, we are actually in a foreign, if you will, although I don't actually have my own server, but foreign to us as a group server, which is the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord, to get the name correct, server. So it's kind of the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server, because that's the name of it. But yeah, we've come unexpectedly after a little bit of a chit-chat with AI yesterday, and hopefully it will be as warm a reception as it is in politics. Hello. Discord, that is. Good to be here. Oh, it's so nice to have you, Nathan. It makes such a nice change. Oh, well, it's nice to hear that from you all. And such a warm reception is always welcomed. Should we do a bit of housekeeping?
Yeah, it's a little bit dusty.
Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No.
As Andrew pointed out earlier, he pointed out that angles are two straight lines.
Cool. Yeah, like everything Embo offered in the pre-show. Proof of a flat plane being measured.
Absolutely, and the tangent line to a curve is an example of a straight line.
It is. Fortunately, we're measuring the surface, and it's flat for the prerequisite angle that we're correcting to when we do things like dip. No sphere involved. I mean, obviously, everyone's entitled to their belief, and if you want to believe that two straight lines you're measuring with respect to a flat surface level has a dangling dingleberry earth dangling beneath it, then you're perfectly entitled to that belief. Meanwhile, we measure Earth flat for elevation angles. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
How are you sure that you're measuring it flat with this line if we've already agreed that you can have a straight line as a tangent to a curve, so that isn't exclusive to either model?
Because we measure it.
Yeah, but...
Sorry, yeah, but... Sorry, yeah, was that yeah, but? You mean yes, as opposed to yeah, but there's no but involved. We measure Earth flat. Not yeah, but I can infer there's a dangling dingleberry below that line that we measured. Surface level. You could, and I already told you, you're entitled to your belief, sir. As per the pre-show where you got told there, don't force your zealot sphere belief upon us. That won't be tolerated. We can talk about the yeah, but measurements of a flat Earth that we need for angles to stars from surface level. That would be flat Earth all the way. Yeah, but we can imagine there's a dangling dingleberry. Yeah, but that won't work inside the celestial sphere if you're going to infer that Earth's a glorified protractor, as I explained again in the pre-show. We understand where your zealot globe belief comes from, and it certainly isn't functioning with angles from a surface that you're standing on when it functions from within hell as Earth being a glorified protractor. We understand, Embo, your religious belief in a sphere better than you do, and you're entitled to it in spite of your ignorance of it. Just don't force it upon those who are more enlightened about where it came from. That would be flat Earth measurements. The ones that are, yeah, but we will be measuring.
Yeah. So the angle measured on the surface has exactly the same value as the one in the center of the Earth. That's why you didn't have to directly measure it from the center.
Oh, my bad. So you measure angles in hell, do you, Embo?
That's the exact opposite.
Stutter for me. It's just a simple yes or no question. Simple yes or no required. Do you, Embo, measure angles in hell?
No.
No, we measure them from the surface level, where we measure Earth flat. Obviously, you can superimpose your religious belief around the flat plane of reference we measure for these angles. But then you won't be measuring on a globe, you'll be measuring in a globe, and you ain't measuring in a globe in hell. We are measuring on the surface with respect to the straight line we need surface level to be for it to be an angle measurement. So we do measure Earth flat, we're not in hell, Embo.
How did that address my point in any way? Do you even remember what my point was? That the angle measured on the surface is exactly the same as the one in the center?
So there is no angle measured in the center?
That's true. It's just...
Sure, so it's exactly the same as something unmeasurable, is it, you stupid globe-believing dick? No, we do only measure one angle. Now, this globe-believing zealot says it's the same as the unmeasurable inferred angle that was previously a dangling dingleberry below a tangent. But now suddenly we're inside hell, saying that, no, the line inside the globe that we're not standing on anymore is the same as the surface level that we do measure. No, it isn't. You can't enter a presupposed globe world that hasn't been measured and only comes to fruition after measuring Earth flat, to say that when you measure Earth flat and create a globe that wraps around the plane that you measured, it matches the surface tangent plane that you're not measuring. This is ludicrous globe-believing zealotry spewing out of you, Embo. For the 8th time, stop it. Any evidence?
Yes, I can absolutely infer that. Because
are we going to do this 9 more times? It's 9 times. I've done it in the pre-show. I've now done it in the live show 9 times. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? No, it's the zealot can't help himself time. Zealot, sit down and shut up. We're not going to superimpose your zealot globe belief into a flat Earth measurement here. Is that clear? Is that clear?
I don't have any flat Earth measurement to impose my belief.
Elevation angles. Elevation angles. The ones you discussed and brought up in the pre-show. Elevation angles, sir. You brought them up. I told you off for using flat Earth measurements. I've done it 3 times. And all you can do is infer a hand wave based on what, a non sequitur I've offered? No, you brought them up. They're called elevation angle measurements. They are a flat Earth prerequisite. You need them. You bought them up. Now you're trying to justify how they match. Sorry, what matches the angles in hell? Oh, the flat Earth measurements that are suddenly nothingy and don't exist and aren't proof of anything. Why would you be suggesting angles in hell match surface level angles then, if they don't exist and aren't important? Oh, it's because the only ones we do measure are the flat Earth ones he say match the ones in hell. We're not in hell. And you need flat surface level measurements to claim they match ones in hell. But as soon as they're absolutely defined as being flat Earth prerequisite, suddenly I haven't proven anything. Yeah, I have. Earth's measured flat. You need a flat Earth more than we do. The flat Earth that you suggested earlier match the angles we cannot measure in a presupposed hell-based system. Oh, so what's matching the ones in hell that we can't get to compare whether or not they are matching surface level measurements that we do take. Oh, let me guess. These measurements of Earth that's flat suddenly don't exist. I haven't proven anything, right, Embo? Bugger off to Simon Dan so you can suckle at the teat of consensus. I'm not going to give you that. What I will do is take your question about dip, angle correction to surface level, and point out that Earth is measured flat. And you can squirm and tell me about tangent points that aren't lines that are being measured, and then tell me how, no, actually it's not dangling beneath, we're inside it now. And they match surface level measurements, they're the same. Because you've gone to hell, tunneled down 3959 miles to compare and contrast surface level measurements of Earth that's flat that we do measure, to say that they match, to simultaneously go on to tell me that I haven't proven anything, right, Embo? Earth is flat, sir. Stop forcing your fundy belief on us. That's 9 times. Bloody zealots. Any evidence of the distance to the... Oh, my God. Embo, what part of go and suckle at the teat of consensus with Simon Dan don't you understand? Do you think it's your turn to maybe have a 9th or a 10th attempt to impose a sphere belief derived from flat Earth measurements of angles to stars into this discussion about flat Earth angle measurements? No, I'm going to go with no. We don't need anything further from you. I'm going to ask a housekeeping question. Maybe you'd like to chirp up about this one instead, Embo. Given that you're on the religious zealot globe-believing side, maybe you can give us a distance to the sun. Anybody at all? Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Clearly not. Right, we've got a video to cover. This is Bob the Science Guy, and as is always the case, I'm sure Bob would appreciate us sharing his algorithmic love that we definitely do not receive as flat earthers. So, if you are currently in the live stream chat, I know we've not long, maybe 10 minutes or so, been live, but please toddle along to Bob the Science Guy and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite, non-sweary, not going to get removed by the YouTube bots immediately comment that alludes to the fact that we have covered his video here. That is to say, all one word, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and we responded to your video. And whatever polite comment you may wish to leave for Bob the Science Guy. So, hopefully, we'll play a little bit, and hopefully we'll see Brian make an appearance, as it was his suggestion in the first instance that we cover Bob the Science Guy. But while I'm hopefully calling to action for the audience to toddle along to Bob, who would, and I think he would actually, I think Bob's one of the few people I could probably rely on. If he did make a response, I'd almost not expect Bob to put a link to my video, but I think out of courtesy he would. Generally, in terms of decency, Bob's a pretty good guy. You know, he doesn't tend to be a complete jerk. His argumentation's fairly standard as Globers go, but in terms of his demeanour and his personality, he's not that bad a guy. So, you know, be polite to Bob. He deserves it. He's earned it, in all sincerity. Not that I'm in any way endorsing any of his Globe positions. I'm not. And you'll see as we play the video exactly what I mean by that. But he is definitely worthy of at least a polite message. You know, don't step beyond the, "Hi Bob, nice to see you. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, responded to your video." And I, in turn, will try and keep it as polite as I possibly can when responding to Bob's comments in response to gyroscopic motion, being fixed in space, things like that, which we'll get to. I think there's a couple of other people on the panel who have watched this, and I haven't. I've watched maybe top 60 seconds of it just to do a quick sound check and make sure it's leveled up okay. But I am actually unfamiliar with this. Why is it giving me the whirly whirl? Anyway, hopefully if you... Oh, he wants to play me an advert, that's why. Fair enough. Yeah, that gives an opportunity for the audience at least to pop along to Bob, as I have suggested you do. There is a link, as I say, in the live stream chat. You can see it whizzing its way by now. To Bob's video, and just let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice, polite comment. Hopefully he'd do the same for me. Anyway, has Brian tried to join?
Yeah, I got the whirly whirl as well, Nathan. I think it's because the subtitles are going to formulate for the video, and there's a lot of double speak, so
I wonder where you're going with that. I'm like, this isn't true. I know this is wrong. And then you said to formulate the double speak in the closed captions, it takes a bit of processing power. Yes, you're right. I love it. Okay, right, without any further ado, this is, as I say, Bob the Science Guy.
This is Bob the Science Guy, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, flight instruments, specifically the attitude indicator. Now, a very common argument that you will hear in the flat Earth is that in order to fly around the Earth, planes would have to dip their nose to fly around the globe. But
sorry, an argument you hear from flat earthers. Now, that's a position the plane must follow if it's following. You just showed it. Are you insane? Flat earthers say this plane would have to do exactly as I show here. No, that's not something that we would need to suggest. That's a fact. If the ground's falling away from you, you've got to follow it if you're in a plane. Why would you superimpose this like it's an outrageous claim flat earthers make? I'm a flat earther, Bob. I couldn't give two shiny shites what your globe does. That's for you to claim. Now, we got pitch data. I don't need to make any claims. The NTSB has it on data that you can see for yourself. Earth's flat, mate. Yeah, this isn't an argument anymore. You're a bit late to the party with this one. You might have had a bit of credibility if you were arguing back in the day when it was offered up with logical consistency. Go and argue with the NTSB. It's flat. So if sputs or maybes about it.
But that can't be done because if you look at the data from the flight instruments...
Sorry, can't be done? No. You need to work on your terminology there, Bob. Isn't being done. That's a fact. Now, if you want to charge the NTSB with violations of the law of non-contradiction when they present flat Earth pitch data, you be my guest, son. Meanwhile, pitch data proves it. There is no ambiguity. It's reference to a flat plane, pitch data proves it. If they're wrong, then you better take it up with them. Because I'm going to take the pitch data in every instance and not assert that it should be doing something else as you are doing. No, it isn't doing that, Bob. What you showed diagrammatically with your plane and your globe, it's not doing that. We can prove it. And lives depend on the data that we're referencing.
Specifically the gyroscopic attitude indicator, which is rigid in space, it shows...
Yeah, that's what provides the information for the attitude indication on the pitch data. Yeah, rigid in space. And if there's any deviation for the cage around the gyro, it will show it on the data. Critically important if you're investigating death, Bob.
Shows that the plane does not dip its nose at all.
Yeah, let's just hear that again, Bob, just so we're absolutely clear what the data actually shows, because you've just stated it.
Instruments, specifically the gyroscopic attitude indicator, which is rigid in space, it shows that the plane does not dip its nose at all.
That's correct, Bob. It's actually above horizontal, the reference that it uses to describe whether or not it's pitching up or down. It's nose up with respect to horizontal in the data. Now, that is an undisputable fact. Earth is flat. Now, at this point, Bob, given that you've just declared the facts in this matter, I'm going to welcome you to Flat Earth. Go ahead, whoever that was.
He said up. You'll need a flat earth for that as well.
I was going to mention that earlier. It was within the 60 seconds that I had already listened to, so I'll be honest, I knew that was coming. But yes, as you've already done it, up. No, you're going to need to describe up with respect to something. Yeah? If you deviate from horizontal and you're going to describe it with vertical, that's up, then you're going to need the horizontal to describe it from. Just in case, I already know it's coming, Bob decides that he's going to describe gravitational deviations. You're going to need a reference to describe them with, and they're not in the pitch data. We've just covered that.
Therefore, the Earth must be flat. Well, is this actually the case? Well, no, it's not.
Sorry, it's not presented as an argument, Bob. You might think you're clever, saying that according to flat earthers, it should go round a curved Earth. No, that's not correct. I wouldn't say that. I don't care what your globe does. You can make that claim, not me. But what the data shows is Earth is flat. That's uncontestable fact based on the data used by the NTSB. Now, you want to suggest that I make an argument with that data? No, what I do with it, Bob, is I slap it on the desk and make a conclusion with it. Because it's a fact, Bob. They're using gyroscopes rigid in space and describing with a horizontal plane of reference the angle with respect to that reference. Pitch up in this case for the entirety of the flight. Those aren't arguments, Bob, as much as you'd like to phrase them as though they were. I already welcomed you to Flat Earth based on the facts in the matter.
It's not, because flight instruments are not gyroscopes. They are
Are they not? What about the ones that are gyroscopes?
not rigid in space.
Oh, I see. So the gyroscopes that are rigid in space, that are used in flight, aren't gyroscopes, therefore aren't rigid in space. Wow, Bob. Wow.
They are instruments that are gyroscopically.
Oh, I see. So the gyroscopic rigid in space instruments that are used in flight aren't used in flight. They're actually gyroscopically assisted, not gyroscopic motion. Oh, I see, Bob. That's genius. That's really clever. No, they're just gyroscopes, Bob. They're rigid in space. And lives depend on the information that would be pitch data that we show is flat. Yeah? You're dangerously close to making a mockery of the lives that are lost and investigated by the NTSB, Bob. Yeah? You're dangerously close to it. And if you get any closer, I'm going to call you on it. Okay, Bob? Yeah, don't make a mockery of the NTSB's data. Yeah, many lives that have been lost have been investigated based on that pitch data, with gyroscopic motion at its heart and horizontal planes of references in the data. Now, if you're to suggest that some etheric or gravitational force not documented that may have had bearings on life and death scenarios, then that is pretty disrespectful. I'd expect that data to be there, and if it ain't, it just isn't.
We stabilized.
Shout out to Jardo for gifting 10 memberships. Really appreciate the support.
But in many cases, they're self-correcting. For example, while the heading indicator, which matches your compass heading, is a gyroscopically stabilized instrument.
Yeah, because it's going to be remaining rigid in space and referencing a horizontal plane when caged, if it's a manual gyro. So, yeah, you're going to need a flat plane for these instruments to work, Bob. As shown in the data that you've decided you're going to rearrange into an argument we make. No. Bosh! Pitch data, Earth's flat, Bob. You've already declared it.
It does not self-correct. And as a result, we have to manually change it every 15 or...
Sorry, self-correct? There's nothing to correct to, Bob. We've got the data to prove it. There's nothing to correct for.
20 minutes as we fly over the globe Earth.
Are we not flying over a globe Earth? The pitch data proves that, Bob. Bosh! There you go, Bob. There's no globe Earth involved. Pitch data proves it. Life and death information, absolutely the gold standard in terms of this sort of document. Unless you're going to call into question the investigations when people have died, Bob. Is that what you're going to do? Suggest that some self-correcting, non-correcting gyroscopic motion that isn't gyroscopically fixed in space, but is gyroscopic, isn't being documented, but is really there, because you believe a globe's involved when the plane doesn't pitch around a globe. It doesn't pitch around a globe, Bob. It's not on the information, Bob. The pitch data shows it's flat, Bob. This isn't an argument, Bob.
However, the attitude indicator, which is also a
What a complete shit show.
Gyroscopically stabilized instrument, does self-correct. And itself,
self-correcting, it remains rigid in space, Bob. That's what gyros do. That's why you use gyros. But what's this self-correcting? Sorry, can someone just quickly Google search self-correcting gyroscopic motion? Because as far as I'm aware, it's either gyroscopic or it ain't.
Self-corrects to the vector of gravity.
Sorry, the vector of bending space-time? Come again? You think that pseudo-Riemannian geometry is taken into account with something that remains fixed in free space? No, Bob. No, your pseudo-Riemannian geometry is not taking any effect on anything mechanical ever, Because it's a pseudo-geometry invented by Einstein. What kind of la-la land are you in? Does this pseudo-Riemannian bent spacetime vector get shown in the NTSB data, Bob? No, it doesn't, does it, Bob? There's no pseudo-spacetime. Are you suggesting that the pseudo-Riemannian bent spacetime of Einstein should be accounted for when dealing with the life and death information presented by the NTSB? How utterly disrespectful of the dead. What an absolute outrage to all of those lives that have been investigated by the NTSB. They have not taken into account this pseudo-geometry, Bob, because it's pseudo. That's why. Nobody needs your pseudo-geometry when investigating life and death scenarios, Bob. How dare you infer that life and death scenarios should involve your religious belief in pseudo-geometry? How disrespectful can you be? Meanwhile, bosh! Earth's flat, Bob. It's right there in the pitch data. Did you not look at it? Maybe you didn't understand it.
Which is down. And as a result, as it flies over the globe,
it doesn't fly over the globe, Bob. The information and description that you showed with regards to the pitch data and it not pitching down to enter the void opening up ahead of it if you were on a globe, that isn't happening, Bob.
It's constantly adjusting.
Oh, I see. So the gyroscopic fixed-in-space motion of a gyroscope isn't fixed in space or rigid. It's actually self-correcting to a pseudo-geometry that isn't documented by the NTSB. No, Bob. There's no imaginary pseudo-geometry needing to be documented that it's self-correcting to. Because if it was self-correcting, it would be net correction 0, Bob. Yeah, pretty much like the flat plane of reference that is absolutely required to describe any deviation from it.
What down is, and
Oh, down, that would be, what, perpendicular to horizontal? You'll need a flat plane of reference for that also, Bob. Coincidentally, it's the plane of reference that, when caged, a gyro is useful for in flight. It's the principle they're utilising. The one you're violating with your little vectors in pseudo-geometry, Bob. They are not in the data, though, Bob. No, a flat Earth is. Maybe you should look at the data. Maybe you could show us where the pseudo-geometry is bending in that NTSB data there, Bob. Can you show us that? Oh, is it a gross oversight by people investigating life and death? Is it your version of a gross oversight? No, Bob, the NTSB haven't oversaw anything that had anything to do with pseudo-geometry, Bob. No, I think it's quite an affront to those who've died when you suggest that they've overlooked this vector in pseudo-geometry. They haven't, Bob. No, and I think it's very offensive that you should suggest men at the NTSB aren't doing their jobs correctly because they haven't put on the documents we do have the self-correcting pseudo-geometry that you infer gyroscopic motion, which is just fixed in space, Bob. That's what it's useful for. You know, referencing the flat plane that it references. Like in all those lines along the reference in the pitch data, there's plenty of other lines that you could look at, Bob. Like height with respect to sea level, things like that. They all need a flat plane, Bob. Just so you know, you've already gone through it when you described how the plane end pitching around your globe.
Maintaining a particular attitude in relationship to that changing down. Now,
sorry, what changing down, Bob? Did the NTSB miss the changing down? No, they didn't, Bob. They were referencing how high or low of the flight for the entirety of the journey, mate. They didn't miss how high or low it was, how up or down. They definitely documented that, Bob. Are you suggesting that they should amend it because it should have pseudo-geometry bending? You're telling me that they shouldn't be using a square graph showing height above sea level because that is actually wrong and it's bending around a surface that isn't accountable or pitch data doesn't show? What an affront to those who've died, Bob. It's outrageous. Shout out to Jade for the super chat. Says, get ready for some smoke and mirrors by Wolfie. Okay, I'm fully prepared. You know what I'll do with those smoke and mirrors by Wolfie there, Jade? I'll go, bosh! Pitch data, Wolfie. The stuff that you said had cost $140,000. No, it's shocking, but they actually publish it, the NTSB, people investigating life and death, and it's flat. No wonder you didn't want to give it to us there, Wolfie. No wonder you suggested it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars there, Wolfie. It's because it proves it's flat. What was it you were telling Brian before we acquired it? Wouldn't show any difference either way. No, it shows it's flat. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. Bob did quite a good job of describing how flat it is and how it ain't going around a globe in the data that they use to investigate life and death scenarios. And in some instances, death. It's a very serious issue that they deal with at the NTSB.
Now, to give you an exact idea of what I'm talking about, look at this drafting square. Notice that the top of this drafting square...
Sorry, can someone just dig out the pitch data and tell me where they utilise any such device when dealing with life and death scenarios in aircraft travel? Do they do this on the data there, Bob, or is just this you saying that they should be doing this? Have they got it wrong, Bob? Because this isn't on pitch data at all.
Is 90 degrees to the long edge of the drafting square. So, if we look at this as the vector of gravity...
Oh, sorry, where was that on pitch data? On the document, there's more lines to the graph than just pitch. Does it show vector towards the centre of a Earth that's curving? Does it show that? No, it doesn't show that on any of the data, Bob. It seems like you're just making this up. Now, given that they are investigating people who've died, I find this deeply offensive. Now, I'm going to do a little straw poll to see if I'm justified in the offence that I'm taking from this. But if you're to suggest that this garbage you're making up should be in the pitch data, and therefore that the NTSB haven't quite got it right where they've investigated people's lives who've been lost, families who've been broken, because this garbage you're inventing should be there, I find that deeply offensive. Would anybody else share my offence I take with this? Don't all go at once.
I do. Terrible.
Have you approached
No,
the
it's not
NTSB,
like that.
Bob, to suggest that they need vectors with pseudo-geometry in their life and death data that they publish to us and the rest of the public? Is that what you're suggesting, Bob? It's absolutely disgusting.
If we simply
Sorry, I was
rotate
mourning the dead, but Bob was disrespecting.
He is disrespecting them. I think this is an absolute disgrace.
it like so,
So what, you think like so, bending the horizontal plane of reference utilised by all of the motions and gyroscopic information provided on the data, you think that that should curve? No, that would physically alter the graph that they're using, that people have studied when they're puzzling over why they've lost their loved ones, Bob. Why are you disrespecting the dead man?
even though this is now a new down,
You don't have new downs, Bob. You can't violate the principle in the graph itself on the pitch data. What new down? What an absolute disgrace.
compared to when it was over here,
But there is no over here and over there. When they travel, they're staying with the same horizontal plane of reference to describe their height from sea level and their pitch. This is a disgrace.
this is a new direction for down.
A new direction? Is that what the people who lost family members should lean back on? This garbage invented by a bozo on the fly in the face of the actual data they were presented? Should they rewrite the graphs, Bob? Should they bend the base of the graph, Bob, to account for this changing down? What total load of nonsense! He wants to physically alter axioms of principles used in description to affirm his globe belief. In the face of all those lost lives, what an absolute disgrace.
Down. It's still at a 90-degree angle.
Yet to this thing you're holding, not to any of the references that the plane's using. And you're holding it, Bob. This has nothing to do with the data. You're just making it up.
To that down. So as
No, down is down, Bob. We don't have changing downs. If we did, we'd have to describe them with respect to something to describe that change from. That would be
the
horizontal.
aircraft flies over the curved surface of the Earth,
No, it does not, Bob. The pitch data shows it doesn't do that. Why is he lying? He's literally lying about what the pitch data shows. No, you disgusting man. The pitch data does not show that. It shows the complete opposite of that. It's not curving down. The pitch is up. You liar. Why is he lying? Has he not even looked at what the pitch data shows? Because it absolutely does not show what he just said. Let's listen again.
Over here, this is a new direction for down. It's still at a 90-degree angle to that down.
Okay, so his piece of wood changes down. Okay, Bob, that's good for you. But we're talking about very official data on what it shows. Okay? Now let's listen to his next statement.
So as the aircraft flies over the curved surface...
Liar. We've got pitch data that shows it does not do that. And you're explaining that when it does not do that, as far as life and death pitch data shows it as a fact, it's just a flat earth argument. And now he's telling his audience the plane does nose down. Liar. Liar. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Surface of the Earth. Down is constantly being adjusted.
Not on the pitch data, it isn't.
Line between the aircraft and the center of the Earth. And that changes as it flies over the curve. So the angle that the attitude...
No, it doesn't. He's just lying. That is not what the data shows. This man is lying. Liar.
Indicator is reading will not change, even though the downward vector is changing.
So in spite of it not changing, you say it is. So this is your basis of proof. It doesn't change, but I say it does. No, it doesn't change, and we've got data that's life and death to prove it. But you're just going to say it does change, are you, Bob? No, you disrespectful man. So you don't believe the data as presented then because you say it changes? What, because it doesn't comport to your globe belief? You'll disrespect every life lost investigated by the NTSB? What an outrage! This is disgraceful.
So let's go ahead and have a look at an actual attitude indicator. Now this is the attitude indicator that we're going to...
Why? You've just lied about what it does. So now we'll have a look at it, so you can lie some more about what the plane does when the attitude indicator absolutely does not show that. You're just going to lie some more? Why would we need to look at it? You've just lied about it. Hey, John. Shout out to Pablo. Upgraded his membership. Really appreciate the support. There's no benefit to upping your membership other than giving me more financial support, which I really appreciate. But I give everything out to every level member. But thank you very much for upgrading your membership. I really appreciate the financial support it offers me. So as a token, I really appreciate it. It's as good as a good super chat, that. Thank you so much. Did you have something that you wanted to add on this, John? Have you been listening?
Oh, no, I was just saying, hey.
Okay. Well, have you got the gist of what we're doing as you've just joined?
No, sir.
Okay, well, I'll do a call to action. Today we are covering attitude indicators and the globe question mark. Yeah, it's absolutely a question mark. Attitude indication. No. We've got pitch data. It shows the Earth is flat. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. Nevertheless, Bob the Science Guy is the producer of the video and indeed the name of the channel. Please let him know. I've put a link in the YouTube live stream chat as we are live to almost 100 people. So please let Bob know that I have sent you to his channel and share in the YouTube algorithmic love that we definitely do not receive from YouTube as flat earthers. Hopefully, if Bob was to make a response video to his disgraceful assertion that the NTSB data is incorrect and that the never-changing indicators actually change simply because he says so after holding up a stick. Please let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980, sent me with a polite comment. Hopefully he'd do the same for me if he was to make a response. Hey, Flatsy.
Hello? He held up a stick and said attitude indicators are wrong.
Yeah, he said down changes. And then he moved a stick around in a circular motion and said that down changes with respect to gravity and the centre of Earth. Why? Because he said so. And the indicators that don't change do actually change. They're just self-correcting.
Down is with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, not
Correct.
the center of the sphere.
Correct. He's just lying. He just lied. Just made it up.
to be using the R.C. Allen. Notice there's a couple of features to it. First of all, this little kind of W-shaped feature here, it represents the aircraft. So that would be the left or the port wing. This is the right or the starboard wing.
Who cares? I mean, I'm not being funny, but at this point, he's just trying to lend credence to his baseless assertion, incorrect that it is, that he's just made. Now, what if he waffles on about gyros and attitude indicators for a bit? There's some credence lent to his nonsense that I've got so outraged about? No. Let's see if we can get any more nonsense waffle out of him.
On his attitude indicator a few years ago, and has graciously given me permission to use some of his footage. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is this is the same attitude indicator that we looked at a moment ago. You have the model number, and you can look up the specs on it.
It's not on a plane. Once wired up, it can be demonstrated over many hours. What, you think that this on a desk is going to help you? I'm afraid not, Bob. No, we already have the references. We already have the NTSB data. Bosh! Earth's flat. This isn't going to help you.
If you wish, it is an electrically powered gyroscopic attitude indicator. Now,
maybe look up what gyroscopic means and then tell us again how it self-corrects.
He's getting ready to go ahead and hook up the power supply to this. Notice the red...
Boring!
Gyroscopic.
I'm always...
level did not have pendulous vanes, and that is correct. The earliest attitude indicator was a mason jar half filled with motor oil.
So did this self-correct to bleeding gravity? What is he babbling about?
Kind of give you an idea of what the direction of down was. We then went to...
Right, give you an idea of down? So this axiomatic principle described perpendicular to horizontal. We need an idea of that, do we? No, we understand what down is. John just summarized it not 30 seconds ago.
Gyroscopically stabilized attitude indicators, much like the current heading indicators that we have now. However...
What do you mean, however? We've got all of the documents about them in flight. We've got it. It's done deal. Bob. Bosh! Earth's flat. There's no contesting this data. There's no repositioning it into an argument that even though the plane ain't dipping its nose around a globe, it self-corrects. No, you'd have to dip its nose down, Bob, around the globe, into the void that's opening up ahead of it. But what the indicators show isn't that, is it, Bob? So you've got to make stuff up to get around the fact that the indication, the data, isn't globe-shaped, it's flat. So you've got to lie to Glurf. None of this is being presented with data, you notice. Notice when we go through this, we put the data up on screen and go, there it is. Bosh. What does Bob do? Go to some old crappy video of somebody who's ripped a gyro out of a plane? So what? Our data's life and death, Bob. Notice you're not putting that on the screen.
They had to be periodically readjusted due to gyroscopic precession as we went over the surface of the Earth.
So you're saying the precession, so in this instance, if it's precessing, it isn't rigid in space, so it's faulty. It's not remaining rigid in space. So it's not a gyroscope anymore. So you're saying it wasn't a gyro, but to make it seem like it could maintain rigidity in space, it had to be corrected. So it didn't work correctly. Yet the principle of a gyro, Bob, is that it does remain rigid in space. If you're having to mess with it, it ain't remaining rigid in space, is it?
The gyro keeps a fixed frame of reference that is a horizontal plane, Bob. Why are you appealing to that gyro on a sphere?
He shouldn't even be looking at a gyro with a sphere belief. 103 people watching. Woo-hoo-hoo! Please share the show if you've not done so already. It's like 2 clicks to stick it onto your favourite social media platforms. If you're a big fan of Bebo or MySpace, smash that share button. It'll appear as the link to your favourite little social media outlet. So please share the show if you've not done so already.
Modern attitude indicators have pendulous vanes and correct automatically to the vector of gravity. Now,
that's not what pendulous vanes do. Pendulous vanes are used if you're in a tight holding pattern beyond the capabilities or motion of the cage of the gyro. If you're in a tight turn, you can push something that would ultimately remain rigid in space if you didn't push it beyond the cage's capabilities. Well, at that point, you need something to correct it. That would be pendulous vanes. But that's in tight holding patterns. That's what they're used for. They're not correcting to gravity. Now, maybe you've got a little wiki reference that says they are, but that is not how pendulums work. Now, when they're flying straight and level, your suggestion is they'd need pendulous vanes to maintain corrections with respect to gravity all the time. But that's not what pendulous vanes do.
Now, next, we're going to demonstrate this autocorrection. So I'm going to turn it back
Excuse
over to
me.
Wolfie and let him.
Go ahead.
If I was to concede every ridiculous and moronic thing he just said, he would still need an inertial plane to assert gravity. Bob, what are you doing?
You want to expand on that? I didn't go into that at all when I said gravity earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah. Gravity is, or Newton's gravity, is only applicable on an inertial plane if you're going to calculate it. It's not real. Just calculated with an assumption.
Of a flat plane of reference.
From a flat plane of reference. That's right. Bob, you don't know what you're talking about.
Take it from here.
So the gyro is now aligned nicely.
Nathan?
And what we're going to do...
Yes.
And for planes to fly, we need air pressure. So he agrees that we're under containment then.
Yeah, in order to maintain flight at all, you'd need the wing to actually perform its function. Create pressure differentials. Therefore, you need gas pressure for that function. Flight needs containment to form pressure, so you can have pressure differentials along wings. Without containment, there'd be no pressure and there'd be no flight. Yes, correct. Well dropped in.
is the first demonstration. The other
Quickly stabilize. Now, if it
Let's go, D!
No, drop the hoses! It's ethanol fire. Water.
Now, why are we watching this boring video of a guy with a gyro on his desk when we've got NTSB data, Bob? We don't need this. You know, beyond your inference that it's self-correcting with pendulous vanes, that's it, that's all you've got. But we've got gyroscopic principles and pitch data. This might have flown, no pun intended, 8 months ago when we had the logical inference of flight with respect to a plane. Now we've got data that proves it. You're too late, Bob.
point out
see than a 20 degrees bank and the one
plus 1 degree of latitude.
But even it skipping through, I can hear him describing degrees of bank. With respect to what? Ugh. You don't need a flat Earth for this.
That's the one.
banks.
My God, there's a lot of this video just for him to mask his baseless assertion at the beginning. Oh, is this actually it? It's just someone else's video with Bob at the beginning.
Would be about an hour in the.
Listen.
I want to remind everyone that 10 degrees
Needs a flat Earth.
downward
Needs a flat Earth.
dipping of the nose as we went around the curve represent.
We didn't go around the curve. We've got pitch data that proves we didn't, Bob. Why are you lying? Does he think, does he just fantasize that we haven't actually got this data and haven't slapped it on the desk and gone, bosh, Earth's flat? And he can just keep asserting that it's nosing down around a curve when it isn't. What's he doing? Why are you doing this, Bob? It's absolutely pathetic and disrespectful, frankly. Shout out from 24/7 Flat Earth Discord Arena. Yes, I should really make a note of that. So today, as is the case with a mod, I think it was Mush that did it, he's put a link in the live stream chat at the beginning of this live show because we're in a foreign server. Not foreign as in we don't know what it is. I have been here before. But we're typically in Flat Earth Debate, which is Righteous's server. And today we're not. We're in 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server. So the name of the server is 24/7, 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. That's the name of the server. So hopefully one of my YouTube mods, will put a link to 24/7 in the live stream chat, so you can also join this exceptional server who is hosting us today. Thank you to the 24/7 mods.
more than 600 nautical miles. And to fly that in
Oh, and thank you to Theo Mega for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
a commercial jet,
Nautical miles are measured with respect to a horizontal plane. Why did he invoke nautical miles?
Yeah, it's doing an embo like in the beginning of the live show / end of the pre-show. Stop using these flat Earth terms. Linear distances, nautical miles. What, with respect to angle measurements? Again, off a flat plane, derived from flat plane angle measurements of stars. Stop using our flat Earth measurements.
at 450 miles an hour would be about an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say miles per hour is also flat then. If it's just the distance over time for a linear measured concept, then that's going to require a flat Earth also, isn't it?
Well, all forms of distance are vector specific when they're created, but you can take those and bend them with a radius value or something like that. You'd have to get the radius value first, though, Bob, and you know you ain't going to do that.
Well, he can, but they'll need a flat Earth for it.
So as long as this can correct that 10 degrees in less...
Sorry, so we can correct from this flat Earth measurement that we need to correct from. Again, like Embo. Yeah, so we're going to need a flat Earth to describe this correction. What are you doing, man? Are you serious? So you're taking a flat Earth prerequisite and suggesting that there's a self-correction being made, but also it's pendulous veins. But also it doesn't get documented at all on the pitch data. We've already overcome this before you've started. As I said, and I'll restate it again, repackaging a fact as a claim that doesn't work from flat earthers about a globe won't alter the facts of the pitch data, Bob. You're not being clever.
less than an hour and 20 minutes, it would easily keep up with the curvature of the Earth and read level flight.
Level flight, that's a contradiction in terms. It would keep up with the curve in level flight. Is he insane? Can he not hear himself?
Did he just say what I heard he said?
This can correct that 10 degrees in less than an hour and 20 minutes, it would easily keep up with the curvature of the Earth and read level flight.
I don't think he can hear himself speaking. He's suggesting that in level flight, it can keep up with the curve it's not correcting for, not documented, not shown on the pitch data. Has he lost his mind?
I'm going to call him Blob from now on.
Just call him Level Earth Bob. See if people appreciate that.
Rigid.
That's us, right in the
This
middle
really
of
is
the
a bit of a
country.
nothing burger
Birmingham
beyond his
airports
first
for everyone
3-minute
and
foray
every
into
journey.
bullshit.
Hey guys.
Beyond that first 3-minute
So there you
foray
can
of
see in
basis
just
assertions
5
that
minutes,
defies the pitch data, this is a complete nothing burger.
it has corrected itself back to the level attitude. So it's
So, correcting to level, so we need level as a prerequisite. It's on your desk. Sorry, Dumbos, we've already got pitch data. We've got 2 hours of flight across the surface of the ground, and you're showing us something on a desk like we care.
easily correcting.
Correcting what? It's on a desk. Are you nuts?
10 degrees.
Is he
flat-
asserting his
in 8
desk is
minutes.
curving?
Say again.
Is that what it's
Maybe.
trying
Maybe. I have no idea. It makes no difference. This is too little, too late. 8 months ago, this might have just about flown in the face, no pun intended, of the logical assertions that were made about flight. And we could have argued about it. There's no arguing this anymore. We've got pitch data. We already proved it's flat. Now, but for the fact that you guys need to be disrespectful and assert it's self-correcting with a reference to correct to that it isn't shown in the data to be deviating from and would violate if it was, you've got nothing, you've got absolutely jack to come back at us with against this data. It is what it is. Earth is flat. There's no getting around it. No amount of boring 30-minute, 25-minute videos showing gyros on desks is going to change the facts in that pitch data. This is a sad, pathetic, too little, too late attempt by Bob the Science Guy to overcome the facts of the matter with words that, frankly, are in disrespect of those who've died and had investigations done by the NTSB. I think we're done with this crappy video. Anybody else got anything to add on it?
Yeah, even when they assert their plane of reference, right, and say that it's 10 degrees out of phase with the prior frame of reference, it's still a flat plane. And they've just, instead of the sky turning above us as it does, they're trying to turn the ground, but they're still keeping the ground flat.
Yeah.
They're insane.
To assert that it's deviating, you need it to have something to deviate from. There is no getting away from it. Here we go. Theo Megawatt says, curved flight, level data, therefore curved flight, end quote. Bob, the science guy. Yeah, exactly. It is a nonsense spew of doublespeak, and it is, quite frankly, too little, too late. Thank you for the super chat, Theo Megawatt.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob, for nothing. What have you achieved other than getting me shouting at you for being disrespectful? That's what they've got now, as I said in the pre-show. Brian and I discussed this, I can't remember what exactly now, it's a bit long ago, but around about the time that this first hit the public. From our point of view, we put it out with the information as it is, describing it as it is, flat. And Brian and I went on a elongated phone call, having a good old chuckle about what they could possibly do to counter this. And this is what we discussed in great humour. And we're like, surely not. Surely they wouldn't. But yeah, they will. It'll just take them 6 months to just accept that that's the only thing they can do. Violate an axiomatic principle and say that it just doesn't show it in the data. It's self-correcting, so we don't need to show how it's not doing what the data shows it does. Okay, if that's the best you've got. Yeah, even if Bob was here right now and he went through that garbage in person, at the end of the discussion, I'll do to him what I'll do for the audience now. Bosh! There's the pitch data. It doesn't show that. That's the end of it. What it does show is Earth's flat. I can keep waffling as long as you like to try and relieve some pain, globe believers. Nothing's going to change the data. Any more for any more? That's it. We're done with the video, by the way, if anybody from Discord was feeling overly polite and didn't want to chirp up just because we were covering Bob. That's it. Wait, did we just reclaim thanks, Bob? Classic. It was done a while ago. The super chat.
It's an interesting place to be when you're in a supposed debate that you can concede everything they say on Earth, and your point must still be correct.
Yeah. Apparently people like this Bosch term. Several people have... There we go, straight away. As soon as I said it before I'd even got it out of my mouth, a couple of people in the chat are saying, Bosch, Bosch. Yeah, that's what it is. I was trying to explain this to Angels of Light the other day, because there's a misapprehension, clear to us now, that this is something that should be presented at the beginning of the discussion. Like, let's argue about this pitch data. No. It's slapped on the desk at the end to make your point, because there's no arguing with it. It is what it is. If you want to say, oh, well, it just doesn't show the curve of the Earth. Well, no, it isn't pitching down around the curve, entering the void that opens up ahead of us at 8 inches per mile squared. No, it's not doing that, but it's because it does do that. That's what Bob's done. It's not showing curve because it does have curve. That's all he's got. No, it doesn't show that. What do you want from me? You want me to invent an imaginary curve that isn't there because you say so? No, I'm not going to do that, I'm afraid. You can do it if you like, if it alleviates your pain, Bob. But it is kind of disrespectful. Not kind of. just disrespectful. Well, if there's no more comments, I'll round out and say a big thank you. With that, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on Ko-Fi, joined as a Patreon and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server for making today's live show possible. And again, a massive thank you to my G Plus panel for the same. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.